Hi friends, welcome back to Momma Lisa's. Today, it's a Monday and I'm going to make a meal to share with my friends again. And today I'm going to do a hash brown casserole. I've never made it before, so it's kind of just a recipe I came up with in my head. I know there are a lot of them out there, but they didn't really have the ingredients that I wanted. So I thought I'll just throw my own together and see how it turns out. So what I've got is I have got some hash brown potatoes, the southern style. They don't have any onions or peppers or anything in it. So come along and I will show you what this looks like when I put it together. So basically the ingredients I'm using, like I said, is the hash brown potatoes, my pre-cooked sausage and hamburger and onions diced up. And then I also have some Velveeta cheese that I'm going to turn into a sauce, and I'm just going to put that over it, and I'm going to crumble some crushed up French onions, the crispy ones, on top, and just let that bake till it's warm and toasty on top. And that's all. So come along and watch as we make this recipe. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I've got me a couple tablespoons of salted butter in my saucepan melting. And I'm going to make a roux to make my cream sauce to add my Velveeta to make my cheese sauce. So that's what the butter is for. And over here I've got my sauteed or browned hamburger and sausage and my cubed potatoes. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit of dash on it, my favorite go-to seasoning. One of these days here soon, we're going to do what's in your spice cabinet. And I'll show you all the seasonings that I like to use when I cook. So that'll be a fun one. And I'm going to do a little bit of seasoning salt. A little bit of Lowry's here. Not a bunch, just a little bit, because cheese sauce in itself has a decent amount of salt in it. And let's do some pepper. Just a little bit, not too much. Okay, and then let's come back over here to our butter. And then I'm going to add a little bit of flour, just enough to cover, yeah, cover it well, my butter really well, as you can see, without making a wreck. And I'm going to just let that brown a tiny bit there before I add my milk. I wanted to make a decent amount of a roux and a cream base, obviously to cover all of that. So let's see how this does. Cream bases in the roux is sometimes a little bit difficult to gauge. It's usually just by eye, how much you make, and there's no grand, I don't think there's any grand formula, teaspoon to this and that when it comes to that. I think it's just, I've always all eyeballed it. So I'm going to let that brown there just a little bit. And it's soaked up all the butter, which is what you want. Like I said, I don't have a recipe for this. This is just something in my head I came up with. I wanted to try something new and different for my friends that I take meals to. So this is something different that I came up with. Now for them, I'm doing it just a little bit more on the plain side. Me personally, if I was making it for myself, I would probably add a can of cream of mushroom sauce, soup to this as more of a thickener, and it wouldn't require as much of a roux sauce. But I don't think everybody that I take food to likes mushrooms, so I won't put that in there. And then if I were going to do it myself, like I said, for my own meal, I would probably put maybe some mixed vegetables in that, you know, the frozen cauliflower, carrots, and broccoli, Or I would maybe even try mixing it up and putting some peas in it and carrots. This is one of those things that you can do just about anything with, really. So, but like I said, I'm going to make it just a little bit more on the plain side because I want to feed people and have them be satisfied, and I don't want them to eat something that they wouldn't want to eat, you know, where they just end up throwing it away. So we're going to do it just a little bit on the plainer side today, which is okay. And then your goal is just to get those little flour balls there incorporated in with the milk, and you just got to work with it, that's all. Okay, and as you can see, it's thickening up rather nicely there. I've got a couple little lumps in there, which they'll come out as I add more milk, and I'm going to add a little bit more milk to this because I want it a little bit on the thinner side. I don't want it soupy, but I do want it a little bit on the thinner side so it coats my potatoes and hamburger and sausage. Yeah, I spilled some flour over there on my burner. Oops. I'll get it in a minute. I'm trying, like, what in the world am I smelling? And it was flour on there burning. And flour is not the best smelling thing on a burner. Okay. That will thicken. And I'm going to add a little bit of seasoning to this also. And I'm going to add something else to it here in just a minute. You'll see. It's kind of like my secret ingredient, which really is not a secret. But I am a creative cook. I like to try new flavors and taste. And I was making a cheese sauce for noodles a little while back. And I tried this little hack with my velveeta sauce, and it was so good. So I'll show you here in just a minute. But I want to make sure that this thickens the way I want it to. I mean, that was a decent amount of flour, so it should thicken up all that milk. But even if it doesn't totally the way I want it, the velveeta will. So I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start adding my cheese, my velveeta. Now, when you're doing a roux, you can actually do cheddar or any kind of cheeses you want for a meal like this. Like I said, this is just what I'm using on this because it melts a little bit faster and smoother. Now, when you make a roux, and to make it, your basic bechamel sauce, which is what this is, that is a time when you would want to make your own cheddar sauce if you're going to do your own homemade cheddar sauce. A lot of people will take, you know, like macaroni and cheese or different dishes that require a cheddar sauce, and I always get a kick out. They'll put their macaroni and butter all in one baking dish and just throw their cheese on it. I mean, and I don't know, some people may have luck with that, but I've never had much luck with that. I've always used good old-fashioned bechamel sauce as your base for your cheddar cheese, and that melts very smoothly because when you're melting cheese, you have to have another fat in the liquid you're using to bind to, and your milk and your butter is your fat in there, and along with the flour that binds to the fat as well as your thickener. So as they release in your milk, you make a sauce, and that's what your cheddar cheese binds to make a smooth sauce. So just throwing that in over your macaroni, a lot of people end up with this gooey, stringy concoction. I mean, they like it, but I like more of a smoother sauce, so this is the route I go. So I'm going to go ahead and put that all in there. And I've used about a little bit more than half of a block of a 2-pound Velveeta in mine. And then we're just going to let that sit there and melt. I've got that on medium heat, and you would want to stir that pretty much constantly because cheese has a low burning point. It just burns faster, and so does milk. So you would want to watch that constantly. And I'm going to get a spoon here. I'm just going to stir that. And let me show you my little secret ingredient. that I've learned with my cheese sauce on noodles sometimes. It's so good. There you have it. Olive Garden Ranch. Now again, they're not a sponsor or anything. None of these products are sponsors, but they're just ones that I use quite frequently. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour that in with my cheese sauce. And just give it a good old pour. I'm not measuring that. And I know there's some people may think, what? No, it's really, really good because you have a lot of seasonings in there. And then you also have the cream, the buttermilk, and your garlic that makes up your ranch. So it's a very good addition. And honestly, you really can't tell that it's a ranch. And with your cheese sauce, it just complements the flavors. So down and how much it makes. I want to make enough to cover it well. I don't want to float it, but I do want to cover it well. And I think I may add just a little tiny bit of not melted, but shredded cheese to the top, along with my crushed French fried onions. The French fried onions you'd want to put on very last, just to brown, because they do brown super fast. Alright, we're just going to let that melt there. It smells good already. Okay, and there's our cheese sauce, and I'm just going to add a little bit more milk to that. Right there would be great for dipping and different things like that, but I need a little bit thinner to go over my potatoes and hamburger and sausage. There we go. See? Looks great. Nice looking cheese sauce there. This cheese sauce is also really, really good over baked potatoes. There's a dish that my daughter and I make. We put chicken in the Instapot, and I'll have to show you that sometime. And barbecue sauce and onions, and then we cook it real well, and then we shred it and put it on top of baked potatoes, and then top it with cheese sauce. It's amazing. It's so good. You'd really like it. Okay, so now I've got that done. Got my corn back there cooking as my side dish there. We're going to take this and pour it over here. And let's see how we can do this one-handed and hold a camera. Okay. I don't know. I may not need all that, but we will see. It's like you look at something in a pan and you think, how much do I need without it being too much or just right, you know? And I think this might be okay. You know, sometimes when you're dealing with larger quantities, it's a tough call there. But I think that one is going to work well. Let's see here. Now, let's mix that up. That does look good already. Like I said, I would probably put vegetables in it for myself if I were making it just for me, but I'm not. So when you're making for other people, you got to be considerate. So, and the potatoes, being that they're frozen and obviously uncooked, they have their own amount of liquid in it. So that will release in with this cheese and add a little bit more of a liquid base to it also. So I don't know that I'm adding more milk to it. I think that will be just fine. I don't want it dry, you know, but I don't want a potato soup in a pan. If I was going to do a potato soup, we'd do a potato soup. Now I'm thinking, like I said, this is just something I came up in my head. If I were going to experiment again, besides vegetables, I make a homemade, I call it Mama Mac, homemade hamburger helper. And I put in my hamburger, in my cheese sauce, I will usually put steak sauce and Worcestershire sauce because it just literally kicks it up and it's just the best flavor. Again, I'll show you that one of these days too here. So you got to keep watching to see all the yummies. And I think in this particular dish, I think that would be a good addition. A little bit of Worcestershire in with the meat. Because it just takes regular hamburger and just it takes it to another level. And it makes it tastes almost like steak in a pan, you know? I mean, so. Okay, make sure all that's well mixed. Oh, what do you want, kitty? She's in here. What about me? She's going to wait. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to sprinkle cheese on top. I don't want to put a boatload of cheese on top. I mean, now, if you make this at home, you can obviously do whatever you want with that. It's just, cheese is kind of is oily. And I don't want to give people a bellyache because of too much oil, because I've already got a lot of cheese in this dish, as you can see. Now, my ground meat, I already drained really well, so there's not much grease in that. So, alrighty. Yeah, good enough. Okay, and there is the finished casserole, my cheesy sausage and potato casserole. Of course, it has hamburger also, but I sprinkled the cheese on there, and I'm just going to put that in the oven at 400 for about 15 minutes till the cheese on top is browned and bubbly. And then I will add on top some crumbled up French onions and let them brown also. Now, if you really wanted to go extra, and you could take some crumbled up bacon on top of that and then put your crumbled French onions on it, but for time's sake, I don't have time to cook bacon today, and I don't have any bacon crumbles on hand, but there's just so many variations you could do with a casserole like this, and it's such a cheap meal to make. Obviously, minus the velveeta. Velveeta is so expensive right now. It used to be relatively affordable, but it's so expensive right now. But you could use other cheeses to make your cheese sauce that are a little more inexpensive, so... But, you know, you got to consider, if you're feeding 8 or 9 people with this dish, it's still not a bad price, you know. So, I'll show you the finished product in here just a little bit. Okay, there's our dessert. My banana carrot cakes. So I'm just going to... and I put them upside down. I told myself I was not going to put them in upside down. Not so much upside down, just the container. There's a little pretty design on the bottom of those containers, but... Again, I flipped it upside down. And there is my finished casserole of hash browns, ground beef, and sausage, and cheese. Really cheesy potato casserole. And on top of it is the melted French onions, and then there's cheese underneath that. And it smells so good. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be really good. And of course, we have a little bit of corn for the side, so... I'm going to plate this up and get it delivered.